What's going on, everyone? My name is Andy and welcome to my Game Week 27 review. This is the part where I usually say this is a weekly video, but let's be honest, I've not done a review for a little while, mostly just because of the hectic schedule over Christmas. It's just not been enough time to do a review. Also, just to bore you a bit, like having slow internet and stuff just means it takes a little bit longer to upload, and so I don't always have the time to do it, or I can just leave the computer on and get it uploaded and stuff. But this week, there's no games this weekend. There's FA Cup on. So the Game Week 28 is the following week. So we've got time to record a review. I think there's a few things to talk about. I've had an awful week, so I'm going to go through that. How my Sanchez punt went down. Spoiler alert, it went really badly. And obviously Aguero, I didn't go for him and he scores 4 goals. So we'll just jump straight into it. We'll go through my team as usual after I've gone through the points. And there's a few kind of teams and stuff to look at. And obviously the blank game week which is coming up, which is all the talk in the community right now. But let's just jump straight into it. So this is my team for this week. Just gone, Game Week 27, I got 63 points. I'll come on to that more in a minute. Some of it will be interlinked with the points I want to make. But let's just start off with the blank. So, if you don't know there's a blank game week in Game Week 31, where have you been? It's all FPL community's been talking about recently. There's a discussion of which players you should get in for that. But the wait is nearly over. Once those FA Cup games are finished, as long as there's no replays, we'll know who's going to blank in Game Week 31 after this weekend. So my aim will be to try and do a video on that next week, or at least have it in the preview of who's going to blank and who's not. But that's coming up. So right now, as of recording this, it's Tuesday evening. Spurs are playing Juventus in the Champions League. They're 2-0 down within 9 minutes, so Juventus have had a really good start. But the reason I mention that is because I'm not going to have access to all those results, but you need to keep an eye on what's happening in the Champions League. Obviously, you've got injuries, so you're kind of in form, out of form. Obviously, you know, Spurs playing Juventus away is a lot different to playing Crystal Palace away, but still, take a look at them. They started Lamela tonight, for example, instead of Son. Now, that probably means that Son gets straight back into the team at the weekend, but maybe now he thinks Lamela's a better option in away games, and perhaps he goes for him. So, little things like that in the teams for the Champions League are worth noting. And obviously, FA Cup at the weekend, for the teams that are playing in that, keep an eye on them for injuries, kind of who gets played, who gets a good rest, and things like that. So keep an eye on them. We will know basically after this weekend who's going to blank. If there's replays, it makes it a bit trickier, but we can kind of, you know, if a really poor team and a good team has a replay, say Man City have a replay against whoever they're playing, I don't even have note of it, then you'd argue that Man City will probably win. So you can still start planning around that. Right now, we just know that Watford, Liverpool, Everton and Stoke will not blank. So if you've got any players from those teams, you're good for Game Week 31. What I would say as well is last year for me, I kind of held players for weeks and weeks and weeks from like West Brom and Bournemouth, like Stanislas, Matt Phillips and people like that, because they weren't going to blank. They didn't do anything for me for the weeks running up. So it's very hard to say right now how to plan for that. But I'm trying not to let the blank get in the way of everything else, because there's some teams with some really good fixtures coming up. So we'll just talk about them really quick now. So Arsenal have got Man City at home next, but after that it's Bournemouth away, Watford at home and Leicester away. That's right up to Game Week 31. Obviously if they blank in 31 they'll miss that Leicester game, but for now we don't know if that's happening. So I'm just going to go through the teams with good fixtures. Swansea are looking pretty good fixture wise. Now I don't know who you'd really go for their team. Obviously Mawson in defence looks good. I mentioned him last week I think. If not, I've mentioned him on the streams. But Jordan Ayew up front, still playing up front. They've got Brighton away, West Ham at home, Huddersfield away, and Southampton at home. So a nice run of fixtures, but it's really Spurs who I'm looking at. So they've got, and something to keep note of is Crystal Palace away this week, Huddersfield at home, Bournemouth away, and then Newcastle at home. So that's a really nice run of fixtures. Obviously, most of us have got Harry Kane, so I'm not even going to tell you about him. If you don't have Harry Kane, then that's obviously your team, your decision. You know full well what he's capable of. And if you've decided to go without him, that's perfectly fine. You don't need me to tell you that that's a good run of fixtures for Harry Kane. But most of us, I'd say right now, don't have a Spurs midfielder. We've probably got Sterling, Salah, maybe a cheapie like Lingard or Shaqiri, De Bruyne, Hazard, players like that. But I'm looking at getting maybe a Spurs mid in right now. So Son was someone I had before and I got rid of him over the three... basically got rid of him for Sanchez. Now, Lamela starting tonight is a bit of a worry. Son has obviously started a lot of games in the Premier League, but maybe that's about to come to an end. So really then you're looking at Eriksen and Ali as nailed-on choices. Now, if you look at the stats, Ali's doing okay. If you go with the eye test, he's just really not. He doesn't... whatever it is, it's just not clicking for him right now. And you know, they're playing. I think they're playing 4 at the back right now. That might change when Alderweireld comes back, and that might, you know, give him more freedom. I don't know. Eriksen is probably the better choice right now, stats-wise. But when I watch him play, he seems to drift out wide quite a bit. Maybe not as central as he has been in the past, but he's still creating lots of chances. He's still having the goal attempts. He is 0.3 more expensive, so that might be a kicker for some of you. But yeah, I'd look at, based on those fixtures, like I said, Crystal Palace away, Huddersfield at home, Bournemouth away, Newcastle at home. Probably worth looking at them. And defence, Vertonghen and Lloris are probably the most nailed on. I like Ben Davies, but the problem is Rose has just come back into the team now, or at least he's back into the squad. So he's likely to take some minutes. Now, that might be in the FA Cup, potentially, and Davies just keeps playing on the left. But he had a really nice assist for Kane against Arsenal, which is actually another thing I wanted to mention, because they only won 1-0 Spurs against Arsenal, but they pretty much battered them for most of the game and could have scored more. Kane especially could have scored more. So I think Kane owners have been a bit unlucky maybe over the last 3 games. But yeah, looking good. And then West Brom have got okay fixtures too. Huddersfield at home, Watford away, Leicester at home, and Bournemouth away. So I think that's a fairly attacking run. Daniel Sturridge got injured in the last game. Not sure how long he's out for, but keep an eye on that. But Rondon, if you want a cheap punt, Rondon I think could do okay. His stats-wise, he's been pretty good. I've watched a few of the highlights of him in the last couple of games, or the last few games, like over the last 3 or 4 game weeks. And he's getting the shots away. It's just whether or not he's got the quality to get, you know, a good run of matches where he scores goals. I will say Rondon outside punt for me, but one worth looking at. And then just to mention lastly, Everton. So Watford away, Burnley away. Burnley's I don't think is ever that good for attacking returns, Burnley away, but they've not been keeping too many clean sheets recently. And then Brighton at home and Stoke away. So you could look at them. But again, who'd you go for? Walcott obviously doesn't have the blank. Well, none of the Everton players do. Walcott and Sigurdsson as well. Looking pretty good, I'd say. Look at those two. But yeah, that's basically it for this particular video. Blanks and FA Cup and Champions League. Like I say, keep an eye on everything that's going on. I'll try and keep it covered here, obviously, in the streams. I'll hopefully have a blank game week video next week dedicated just to this topic. And then the preview next week will probably touch on it again. So that's all I'm going to say. There's some teams to look out for fixture-wise over the next 4 weeks. So you're planning ahead there. You're not getting them in just for 1 game, 2 game weeks. I'm looking at Arsenal players because they've got an okay run, but we'll have to see if they blank first because I don't want to bring them in necessarily against Man City. So, moving on, Aguero. I have to talk about him. Obviously, I didn't go with him 4 weeks ago. He scored, I think it's 46 points. He scored 21, 17, which is 38, plus 6. Yeah, 46 points over the last 4 game weeks, which is incredible. It's over 11 points a game. I decided not to go to it for him. All I can say is that people always say to me, did you get it wrong? Yeah, of course I got it wrong. I should have got him in, should have taken the hits to get him in. That's hindsight now. All I can do is go back and look at my decision-making process, and I would say to you to do the same thing. I said on the Scoutcast that he'd actually been unlucky not to score more goals before that, but I didn't think he was quite playing as he had done in the past, but he had been unlucky not to score more goals. So maybe that should have been the clicker in my head to say, well, hang on, if you think he's been unlucky when he's not played well, what's he going to be like if he hits some form? But on the other hand, I had to take a -8 to get him in, and take Firmino out. Now, yes, again, I got it wrong. I should have done that. But that's hindsight now. Firmino has scored 6 points per game over those 4 game weeks, which is a decent return for the price I got him for. You wouldn't complain about him doing that for the whole season. Plus, I would have had to take an 8-point hit to get it. And my captains over those 4 game weeks have scored 8 points, 8 points. So that's their single score before it's doubled. So 8 points and 8 points. And then Sanchez only got 5, missed the penalty, maybe a bit unlucky. And then 13 points for Salah this week. So I've nailed captains every week. And 8 is a respectable score. Again, if you hit that every week, you'd be happy. Of course, we want the bigger hauls. We want the double-figure hauls. But I've not missed a captain. I kept Firmino instead of bringing him in for a -8. Obviously, once he got his hat-trick, I had to consider him again. But then it was the fixtures and maybe Jesus coming back. And I don't think anyone expected him to score 4 goals against Leicester, especially with Schmeichel basically gifting him goals. Great finish on that hat-trick goal, but Schmeichel passed the ball to him. It's ridiculous. So, look, I'm not going to take away. He scored 4 goals. He's capable of that. We've seen it in the past. He's scored now 3 hat-tricks, I think, this season. He's a great player. I underestimated him. I got it wrong. But I feel like anyone that did the same and didn't bring him in, just go back and see what your decision-making process was. You know, I could have done Kane to Aguero over the last 3 games. And again, I think Kane was probably a bit unlucky not to score more. Another day he would have scored against Man United again. And against Arsenal he could have scored more too. So, of course I'm annoyed that I didn't do it. Of course I'm annoyed I didn't get that massive captain haul. I don't tend to remember missing out on big hauls like that over recent seasons, especially from the popular players like Aguero. But I feel like my decision-making process was okay, even if I got it wrong. At least I had reasons not to do it. I didn't just say, he's rubbish, he's never going to score, which would have been completely wrong. So that's what I'm going to say on Aguero. I hope he stops scoring soon, or at least only scores a couple a game. You know, do you know what I mean? 4 goals a game is a bit of a killer when you haven't got him. And that's why my ranks dropped from 36k to 66k. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move on to another failed punt. This is just me talking about all the stuff I got wrong recently. So Sanchez, again, I'm going to sit here and try and make excuses, but I knew that getting in Sanchez was a risk. Yes, he had Huddersfield at home. Yes, he had Newcastle away, but he hadn't been playing well this season. Man United have been okay, and the teams they have scored 4 goals against, mostly towards the end of the game rather than dominating throughout. So I knew it was a risk. I captained him. Luckily, I didn't captain him this week. I did say, kind of on the streams and on Twitter, that I couldn't really think of a good reason to captain him over Salah. I checked the stats. I've obviously watched how Salah's played all season. There was just no good reason to captain Sanchez. So luckily, I got away with that. But again, I feel a little bit unlucky because in another game, yes, he's not got the greatest penalty record, but that penalty goes in. That's 10 points. Probably gets the 3 bonus points. Against Newcastle, if any of you saw it, if you saw my tweet, he had an open goal and he didn't shoot first time. And that extra touch let him down and let the Newcastle defenders come back. And again, if he scores that, you know, yes, can't predict what would have happened, but maybe he gets 3 bonus points again. That's 10 points straight away. You know, do Newcastle come back from 1-0 down to Man United let that slip? I don't think so. I think most people would bet on Man United going on to win. Does he get more attacking returns? Do you know what I mean? It was a bit of a swing in points, because if he scores that, he gets 10 points. I then get Jones's clean sheet if we go on to win the game to 0, which again I think we could have. I think Man United and Jose Mourinho teams are good at closing out games, and he would have definitely done that, because it was tough to get to that position to have a chance at goal. You know, United had a few chances, but none as good as that Sanchez one. So, look, again, I got it wrong. Part of that was, of course, because he's a Man United player. I didn't hide the fact that it was a bit of a biased pick, but that wasn't the only reason that I went for it. So, do you know what? It happens. We'll move on. Will I get rid of him this week? Potentially. I don't think he's my biggest worry, just talking about my team for a second. I mean, I got 63, just to go into it really quickly, which is a red arrow, 36 to 66k, which is awful. And I'm really struggling at the moment, to be honest, to get something right. Will I get rid of him? I think Lingard's a bigger problem. He's going off early. I wouldn't be surprised to see him rested. I went off really early. Jones, Man United's fixtures aren't great right now. Alonso injured. We don't know when he's going to come back. We're going to speak about him in a sec. And then they've got the fixtures. So I've got bigger priorities, but Sanchez holds so much of my team value that I might need to get rid of him. I've got 2 free transfers. So I'm going to look at, I maybe take a 4 or an 8 point hit this week. I'm going to weigh up what happens for game week 31 and then look who I can bring in. I'm looking at De Bruyne, I'm looking at Spurs defenders. I'm looking at bringing in a Liverpool defender, because Liverpool don't blank, so I'm more than happy to triple up on them. They've got West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, Man United away, not great, and then Watford at home in game week 31. So I'm looking at Robertson or Van Dijk there. I think you should keep an eye on them. Robertson a lot cheaper, but Van Dijk, he's going to score over these next 4 games, I think. So looking at those. But yeah, Hazard and Alonso, just to come on to them. So Alonso obviously missed out. I don't know where this was said. I can't remember if it was me that said it, but it was pointed out that Morata had a similar thing where he said he was just tired, or Conte said he was tired, and then he was out of a back injury. Similar thing with Alonso, said he was tired. Then Alonso tweets that he's not yet back out on the grass, and we start to think, is he injured? But there was no mention of it, so we kept him in our teams. And as I said on last week's preview, Chelsea got some really bad fixtures coming up. So if I can just find them here, they got Man United at home, Man United away and Man City away. Not good fixtures at all. Crystal Palace at home and then Burnley away. And, okay, teams like Spurs scored quite a few. Obviously, Kane got his hat-trick against Burnley away. But I tend to not like that fixture for predicting a lot of goals. So Chelsea's fixtures are really poor coming up. So Hazard done really well the last couple of games. Owners of him, you know, well done to you. You got him. I got Sanchez. Big mistake. But I think now I wouldn't be looking at bringing them in, knee-jerking them in, just because Man United and Man City away in a row does not get much worse than that. And obviously Alonso, I'm really looking at taking him out, to be honest. Some people are knee-jerking him because they've only just got him in, and some of them have got him in for Christian, so I can see why that's annoying. But I don't know. I just weigh up what you think he can do over these fixtures. He has scored big against the top six this year, either goals or clean sheets. You know, the points have been ticking in, so it's not like I don't think he can get points at all. I just wonder if I can go without him now till the wild card, because after that Burnley away fixture, they got Spurs at home, I think it is. So it's not too easy for them over the next 5 game weeks, but was a nice victory against West Brom. So we'll see what goes on there. Really, the reason I would get rid of Alonso is to unlock money. Alonso and Sanchez out lets me do big things, so that's what I'm looking at. But I'll leave it there. I've done a hopefully a fairly quick review. I can't see a timer of how long I've been talking for. But obviously, there's not too many points for the next week, because a lot of it, or virtually everything right now, revolves around that game week 31. So hopefully, giving you some of the reasons I made decisions in my team. Let me know what you think. Did I get it completely wrong? Did I at least have some justification? I don't know. You tell me. Obviously, gone through some of the fixtures to keep an eye out for. We'll cover that more in the preview, I expect. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, I appreciate a like as always. Subscribe if you're new around here. That'll let you know when the next video is going out. Next stream, I may stream instead of doing a video on the banks to talk about it. Maybe do one of those hybrid video streams where I do a video kind of controlled at the start, knowing what I'm going to talk about, and then go into the stream and answer your questions and just generally chat about the blanks. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks all.